There's something wrong with the TV. It's all messed up.
I wonder what that means.
Or what could it mean? It could be over in a couple of hours.
You know something. I'm sure this will turn out to be a big nothing.
I don't think this is nothing. We're in this together until things get back to normal.
There is no going back to normal.
There's a reason why they put certain movies on Netflix and other streaming video content platforms. So there is a brainwashing campaign underway, and there's many ways in which people are brought over to the dark side. Now, that doesn't mean everybody. I understand the role of entertainment and unplugging. You know, I will watch Netflix periodically, and then I will stop watching Netflix. So I see the role in movies, and I have watched a number of movies recently since unplugging from the internet. So I have a few opinions on things, on the content that's out there. So I'm going to say this at the beginning. Yeah, there's a lot of great content on Netflix. There's also certain themes that I notice. Okay, so there are certain miniseries out there that are entitled "How to Become a Gangster." There's another one called "How to Become a Mob Boss." Okay. There's another one called How to Become a Cult Leader, or something to that effect. There's another one called How to Sell Drugs Online, okay? There's another one called How to Become a Tyrant, and then they show the face of Adolf Hitler. On that note, I've made this point before. On streaming video content platforms, I've mentioned Tubi many times, there's a whole plethora of free Adolf Hitler documentaries, right? This is on the heels of YouTube years ago promoting certain content favorable of this individual. So this is not an accident. See, you have different corporations, you have different companies, right? When it comes to streaming video content. And here you see some of the same agendas, being put forward. Here's another point. When it comes to conspiracy theories, there isn't any real diversity when it comes to those platforms. There are only certain types of thought that they want you to engage in. So they will promote conspiracy theory. The media does that in so many ways. It promotes a certain brand or flavor of conspiracy theory, and it goes down certain rabbit holes. And it would take longer to define and describe all the different types of deceptions that I see. However, in a 2 to 3 hour podcast that I recorded months ago, I do talk about exclusively streaming video content. So I may upload that. If you're not already subscribed to the Substack newsletter, that is alexansary.substack.com. You want to be subscribed to that because I will not be uploading everything to the YouTube channel. Okay, there's going to be some things that I upload to the Substack page, and then it's also easy for people to download the podcast. So not everything is going to be on YouTube. Okay, so it seems to be a part of the agenda. A lot of people picked up on that during the lockdowns for people to overconsume internet content, media content of various kinds. So when it comes to these dystopian movies, for example, this one that I'm discussing now, there are real-world consequences for people being brainwashed into thinking that Iran or the Muslims or the Arabs or some other foreign group is about to attack. Through movies like this that end up being number one, we see scenes in which Death to America appears on flyers that drop from the sky that are found on cars during some major event, some major power outage, and so, if anyone's paying attention, they're aware that we are on the verge of some sort of conflict with China and Russia. And Iran is allied with China and Russia. So any event with China or Russia is likely going to involve Iran and or North Korea and or perhaps some other countries as well, right? There's been a big time alliance in the East being built in recent years since 9/11. And others have been discussing this for years, the build up to World War III, the coalition against the United States that is building. Okay, and so there's a lot of people that are simply naive to this. And in my heart, as far as I'm concerned, there's an evil hand that's orchestrating all of this. It's not like one individual, nation that's to blame. There's a hidden hand behind this. That's what I feel. That's what I sense. And that's why the world has been armed to the teeth, and that this has been a long-term agenda. So yeah, we're going to see a lot of major events coming up. Are they trying to condition the population to perceive the events that are coming as being a Iranian attack? Is that the reason why this is taking place? Is that the reason why Obama is involved in the film? Obama's been accused of a lot of things over the years, including being a little too close to the Iranians. And now here he is being associated with a film, Leave the World Behind, that is depicting the Iranians as the threat. It's not playing a major role, but it's significant enough, right? That whole scene in which the leaflets are found on the cars saying "Death to America" in Arabic, and that's pretty intense. You know, that has an effect on the psyche of a population. As we look at real world events right now in the news with Iran, with proxies of Iran in Yemen, fighting back against what Israel is doing in Gaza. As I said weeks ago and months ago, it would build and probably include Iran and or other nations. And this has the potential to bring in other nations into something even greater. So, yeah, one could really benefit from being very selective when it comes from the type of content that they're watching. Ultimately, people watching this content aren't getting prepared, aren't getting outside the box of the mainstream media and the racial tensions and strife. You know, that's going to be there, unfortunately, in many of our communities right now because of the global mind control that's taking place. It's not an accident that we're so divided. But if you are able to make a difference in your community, and there are conscious people in your community, there's so many things that you can do. There's so many things that you can wake people up in your community. As I talked about in recent videos, you can start your own podcast. You can start your own free website. You can start your own YouTube channel. You can get outside and you can hand out DVDs of various documentaries. You know, there was a point in time in which people would do that. After the 9/11 attacks and the early 2000s, there was the rise in the alternative media. People would hand out DVDs, and people would appreciate it, in some cases, in the streets. Oh, wow, this is interesting. Oh, wow, this is a different perspective on the event that led to these wars. Thank you very much. Now, some people would look at somebody offering them a DVD, and they would look down upon it, or they would be suspicious, or they would automatically assume it's a scam. And for good reason. There's a lot of scams out there, and that is reflective of the state of human consciousness today. But we should still try. And so people have asked me years ago, you know, why have you discussed the possibility of World War III for years, and or the idea that it's staged, first and foremost? So that if people are armed with the information that this has been a part of a long-term plan, many of the conflicts, part of a long-term plan, then they can choose to not participate in the devil's program, in the devil's agenda. If they can see the light and the truth as to how they're being played, how so much of society, so many of the races are being played against each other and religions, if they could see that, then they could, of course, break the conditioning. And so there's a reason why there's shadow banning. There's a reason why I faced the difficulties that I faced, but I'm not going to give up. But I know what I'm dealing with. And, I'll say this briefly. I feel like our limited human lifetimes of 80 to 100 years prevents us from really making the effective changes that we need to make. And oftentimes, our lifetime may really be about us doing the things that we need to do to evolve ourselves. And participating in making the world a better place through various actions is a part of that. And a lot of people think if they can avoid the idea of doing good works in the society, and they want to use their religions in many cases to say that all we have to do is worship a certain way. And this is very common amongst the various world religions, very strict beliefs on worship and prayer. And these things are not things that I was raised in or around, or things that I'm attracted to. In many cases, people are being played off by evil forces that are using these religions. And I feel like that's one of the devil's biggest tricks, not only in convincing humanity in many cases that it doesn't exist, but that godly people are evil and that evil people are godly. Going back to Netflix, the miniseries "How to Be a Gangster," "How to Sell Drugs Online," how to there's a number of different ones that all deal with various forms of debauchery. How to be a mob boss, how to have your own cult. Basically, impressionable minds can get ideas from these Netflix miniseries. And is it an accident that our world is in the state that it's in? Is it an accident that there are TV series that are literally titled that way? How to do this, how to do that. You know, and one could say, oh, it's satire, it's just a joke. But in reality, like millions and millions, really billions of people are programmed towards the dark side. They don't know right versus wrong. That are being pushed and kind of herded into this dark mentality of idolizing serial killers, mafiosa, gangsters, basically people that murder people, glamorizing murder. And yet in our society, they put people away from murder, unless, of course, you join the military or unless, of course, you get off for self-defense in a court situation. But, you know, I've always been just shocked at the fact my whole life, not like, you know, of a mentality that it shouldn't be depicted at all, but very much reflectant of the society's consciousness that it's so obsessed with death and destruction and violence through cinema. And that this is what people are into. And so the dystopian reality is being co-created by the streaming video content platforms and how they're brainwashing people into the zombie apocalypse, creating the zombies. As people watch movies about zombies, they don't realize that they're becoming zombies themselves. So there's more perspectives that I have on these platforms on the podcast that you can find linked over at alexansary.substack.com.